Hello, folks. Welcome to my channel, Rico's Paradigm. Today, I want to discuss the risks associated with marrying into the wrong Filipino family. Getting married into any family is a big life decision that can present both opportunities and difficulties. The cultural, social, and financial dynamics of marrying a Filipino spouse can be different for expats, particularly if the extended family has a significant influence on the relationship. Even though many Filipino families are loving and supportive, there are some circumstances in which an expat may be put at risk, especially if the family has dubious intentions or high financial expectations. When expats marry into Filipino families, they frequently face a number of risks, especially with regard to the financial demands and responsibilities placed on them by extended family members. In order to successfully navigate their relationships and preserve positive family dynamics, foreign spouses must be aware of these risks. The financial burden imposed by family members is one of the most frequent worries among expats who marry into the wrong Filipino family. People are expected to support one another in Filipino culture because of close family bonds, particularly if one family member is thought to be more financially stable. This can result in exorbitant financial demands for an expat who may be regarded as wealthy by local standards. Filipino families may see the expat as a possible financial savior, particularly those from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. Families may ask for money for emergency needs like funerals or medical bills, daily expenses like groceries or children's school fees, business investments which may be ill planned or risky, and luxury items like cars or gadgets that are disguised as needs. These requests may begin modestly but can grow over time, putting a heavy financial burden on the family. In certain situations, not fulfilling these demands may lead to guilt tripping or charges of selfishness. By granting initial requests, an expat may unintentionally create irrational expectations. Some families might expect constant financial support because they believe the expat has limitless resources. This can lead to a vicious cycle of dependency that is difficult to end without escalating hostility or animosity. In order to get money, some family members may manipulate the situation by making up emergencies or exaggerating issues. In order to prevent family conflicts, they may also approach the expat directly rather than through the spouse, putting additional pressure on them to comply. Marrying into a troubled family can have a big emotional impact. It can be very difficult to navigate these difficulties for an expat who is not familiar with Filipino family dynamics. Disagreements, jealousy, and gossip can produce a poisonous atmosphere in certain families. It is possible for an expat to become entangled in disputes over which they have little knowledge or control. Guilt is a tactic used by some family members to pressure the expat into granting their request. Phrases such as, if you truly care about the family, you would help us, can cause emotions of inadequacy and emotional strain. The marriage may be strained by recurring emotional or financial disputes involving the spouse family. Resentment and mistrust may result if the spouse fails to establish boundaries or defends the actions of their family. An expat's adjustment to Filipino culture is essential, but it can be made more difficult if they marry into the wrong family. It can be difficult for an expat to understand Filipino family dynamics because they are firmly anchored in cultural values like utang na luhub. If an expat resists, relatives may expect them to fulfill perceived obligations without question, which could cause misunderstandings. An expat's behavior or refusal to assist could result in unfavorable rumors or social exclusion in close knit communities. Integration into the local community may become challenging and isolating as a result. It can be difficult for an expat to adjust to life in the Philippines if they isolate themselves from their spouse, family, and wider social circles due to overwhelming family demands. Getting married into a dysfunctional family can also result in legal issues, particularly if financial matters go awry. If a family member defaults, an expat who agrees to co-sign loans or act as a guarantor for the relative may be held accountable. Court proceedings can be stressful and drawn out in the Philippines. Conflicts over inheritance or ownership may surface when an expat and their spouse acquire property or assets, particularly if the family feels entitled to a portion. Although uncommon, there are instances where families purposely target expats in an attempt to take advantage of their parent wealth. This can include both small scale deception and large scale fraud. Legal ramifications may arise from the financial commitments associated with marrying into a Filipino family, particularly with regard to property rights and family law. Foreign spouses may encounter difficulties in the Philippines due to property ownership regulations. Since non Filipinos are not allowed to own land, a large portion of the funds used for investments or family support may actually belong to the Filipino spouse. The expat may have fewer rights to property acquired during the marriage, which could cause issues if the marriage ends in divorce. The expat may find it difficult to pursue legal actions if they feel pressured or manipulated into giving financial support. Because the Philippines lacks a divorce law, resolving conflicts involving financial obligations may necessitate legal separation or annulment, which can be expensive and time consuming. Here are some examples. A family member may request a loan to pay for a medical bill, but the expat may find out that the funds were utilized for unnecessary expenses. After being convinced to invest in a family member's business, the expat may discover that it's either mismanaged or a front for theft. Extended family members may contest ownership if the expat assists in purchasing land in the Philippines, which frequently requires a Filipino spouse's name due to property laws. Despite these dangers, expats can take precautions to keep themselves safe and maintain positive ties with their spouse family. Early on in your relationship, talk to your spouse and their family about financial boundaries. Make it clear what you can and will provide and don't go beyond these boundaries. Spend some time studying Filipino family dynamics and cultural norms. This can help you avoid inadvertent offenses and handle situations diplomatically. When it comes to family matters, your spouse ought to be your first line of defense. They must actively participate in resolving conflicts and establishing limits with their family members. Prioritize developing sincere bonds of respect and understanding with your spouse family over business dealings. Make sure that any financial assistance you give is documented, especially if it involves larger amounts. This can shield you from conflict. To make sure your interests are safeguarded, speak with a lawyer versed in Filipino law prior to making any important financial or legal agreements involving your spouse family. A pattern of frequent requests for money, even when you are dating, is one indication that you may be marrying into a troubled family. The Filipino unwillingness to establish limits with their family members talking candidly about the expat's assets or money, excessive reliance on the expat for financial support or problem solving. In conclusion, there are special opportunities and difficulties when marrying into a Filipino family, especially when it comes to financial matters. Expats can effectively navigate the complexities of these relationships and lessen potential financial pressures by developing strategies for clear communication, financial transparency, and preparation for legal complexities. Cultural expectations surrounding familial obligations can pose serious risks for expats, particularly when relatives frequently request financial assistance. For expat partners, it is essential to comprehend the cultural landscapes, familial expectations, and financial obligations that are inherent in Filipino family dynamics. An expat can reduce the risk of marrying into a Filipino family by being thoughtful and planning ahead, which will ultimately result in better relationships and a more satisfying life together. All right, folks, that is all for today's show. Thank you all for watching. Until next time, have a good day.